Hello, and welcome to Wizardry. Well, it's finally here. The last installment of my Dungeons & Drakkenheim videos for Kids' Choice Camps. In this video, I'm painting the legendary creatures box. The techniques used in this video are the same as in previous videos to maintain a consistent look among all the 15 miniatures. So I'm just going to sort of breeze through my process with Lenore, the Rat Prince, and the Crimson Countess before getting to the juicy parts, the Lord of the Feast, and my favorite, the Executioner. It's been a real pleasure painting these models, and I hope that Kids' Choice Camps can use these miniatures for many more adventures through the dungeons of Drakkenheim after our current band of fearless warriors vanquish the evils and reap their rewards. I'd like to thank Nat Davis at Kids' Choice Camps for this opportunity, and also Joe Rowland at Nightmare Landscapes for introducing me to Nat Davis and making this whole scenario come to life. For more information on Nightmare Landscapes or Kids' Choice Camps and the incredible wizards who worked so hard to put this camp together, I'll have links in the description and more details about Kids' Choice Camps on my Wizardry Facebook page. With a little wet blending on the wings of the Crimson Countess, we have the first three models about wrapped up. And it's now time for the stars of our show, starting with the Lord of the Feast. Primed in black and dry brushed with a gradient of dark gray, what I'll call a medium gray, and then pure white, I set the shadows and highlights and midtones to establish a foundation for the glazes to come. I'm not sure if this is zenithal highlighting or value sketching. It's kind of a combination of both. I'll call it wizardry brushing. Either way, it makes the details pop nicely. I began the paint job on this bad boy with a couple of coats of Nightmare Landscapes dark skin tone to give myself a nice deep, rich base color to build upon for all of his fleshy parts. In the artwork, he had red hands and forearms, so I mixed up some Nightmare Red with the dark skin tone to lay the groundwork for that. Unfortunately, my cameraman is a bit of a knucklehead, and this footage isn't the greatest. His skin seems to be a grayish white. By thinning down my Nightmare Landscapes medium and light skin tones, I was able to use their translucent nature to my advantage when adding depth and volume to his skin. I used Nightmare Gray as a glaze over the skin tones. I wanted him to feel somewhat human as far as the flesh and not appearing as though it was simply short, dense gray fur. Unfortunately, this did not work as I'd planned, and I wasn't happy with the results, so I mixed up Nightmare Gray with some light skin tone to give it another go. Kind of like the misread in my November video, I just had to rethink and revise to correct an error. As the paint dried and I contemplated my next move in rethinking my paint scheme for his skin, I used Nightmare Landscapes white and gray to dry brush his fur and to work on highlighting some of his features. A common theme throughout all of the models was purple, be it clothing or using it as I did here in the shadows. Another common theme throughout these models was Nightmare Blue, and as I added a darkened version of it to color and contrast the fur, my new skin paint scheme emerged. As I added washes and began painting the other details on this miniature, I couldn't avoid the fact that the details on his legs were not as sharp and defined as the rest of the model. So I decided to embrace this fact and incorporate the blue and purple into my solution by wet blending the transition from the well-lighted top half of the model to the shadowy bottom half. This would add some atmosphere to the model, leaning into the common color palette throughout all 15 miniatures, and help obscure the fact that the details were soft and not as crisp as the rest of the figure. I incorporated black to further camouflage my reasoning for this decision. In the areas where I wanted to push my highlights even brighter, I applied a dry brush of white, while this also helped push the blues back into the mid-tone and into the shadows. Where I wanted the deepest, darkest shadows, I applied a black wash. And then it was time for the big guy. I was drooling over this executioner from the moment that I saw him. I knew, however, he'd never stay glued to the base with those little peg feet. So I pinned him with a plan in mind to affix him securely to the base after painting. I began with a heavy dry brush of Nightmare Black and Silver to give myself a nice dark base to start with. I followed this with a lighter dry brush of Nightmare Silver mixed with Nightmare Blue darkened down a bit with black. For my highlights, I did a third, even lighter dry brush of just Nightmare Silver for my final dry brush application. Next, I reached for my Nightmare Brown. I assumed that this enormous clockwork murder machine had done plenty of dastardly deeds, so he was bound to have some rust, especially in his joints, chains, and on his massive guillotine axe. I'd saved him for last, and I had a blast painting this chunky monstrosity. It really was so much fun. I can only imagine how terror-stricken a party of adventurers would be confronting this menacing behemoth. Just rust and silver does not make a metal monster like this come to life. Nightmare Blue, straight for the shadows, and darkened with black for deeper shadows, added character and contrast to our big psychopathic killer. I also incorporated light and dark purples within the shadows, giving his armor a prismatic look and feel, and again, linking him in with the paint schemes of all the other models. When I started my highest highlights, I used plain old apple barrel silver craft paint in places such as the chains and rings. I painted over the silver with Nightmare Gold for contrast on some of my highlights, painting a base of white on a highlighted area before hitting it with silver and or gold makes it stand out even more. To solve the dilemma of attaching him to the base, I used scrap bases from other models I'd used in dioramas, along with Nightmare Landscape's basing materials, but this footage I cannot find. I really need to have a talk with my knucklehead cameraman. Painting the base was as simple as wet blending the colors I'd used on the executioner, applying a thick wet coat, assuring that I had plenty of time to work the paints thoroughly. My Nightmare Landscapes paint excelled at this type of application, allowing the variations of light and dark from my base coat and dry brushing to show through, and I think resulting in a very cool base for a very cool model. That brought me to the end of my project for Kids' Choice Camps. It was fun and a big honor for me to be able to participate, and I'd like to thank again everyone involved for including me in this. And I'd also like to thank all of you who are watching. Like and share if you enjoy my videos. I'd really appreciate it. Keep your comments coming. I really enjoy them. And let me know what you'd like to see in the future. Thanks for the very kind compliments and encouragement that I have gotten lately. You know who you are. Share my channel with anyone you think would like my content. Lastly, please subscribe. Currently, I'm at 450 subscribers, and that feels pretty darn good. It's not hard to subscribe, and just hit the notification bell along with the subscription and you'll know when I drop a new video. I hope to be back real soon with another video for you. Thanks again for watching, I really do appreciate it. Grab your paintbrushes and paints and make some magic happen. Until next time, I'm Wes, and this is Wizardry.